The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
The Full Melt.
Gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it Lienhart?
It's Lenhart.
Lenhart.
Think of the O being silent.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lenhart. What's your budget?
Well, currently,
Approximately.
$2 million.
$2 million?
$2 billion.
Yeah.
Is
So about $2 billion.
salary and expenses, and then we have additional with a fee account for our diversion program. So total budget is
It's over $2 billion.
Yes.
Do you get any confiscation money? Do you get any money from confiscations?
I'm sorry?
Do you get any money from confiscations of properties?
You're talking about asset forfeiture.
Yes.
There is money that the Department of Justice gives us from the asset forfeiture.
And how much money do you get from that?
I would have to.
Do you have any idea at all?
If you give me a moment, I could.
I'd rather not take the time for you to research your files. You don't know. Maybe one of your staff members can give it to you.
I can.
Let me ask you this: do you have what is your number one drug you're fighting? What's your priority?
Well, our priority right now is pharmaceutical drugs.
All right, and what's your second priority?
We don't prioritize specific drugs because the organizations that we are going after are polydrug.
So you're not going after the drugs for the harm they do. You're going after the drugs because of the effect it has on these organizations, and you're going after the organizations. Is that right?
We're going after the organizations that are having the most impact on our communities,
Right.
supplying the most drugs and the most violence.
Right. So you're going after the. So if the fact that meth or crack or heroin is causing the most damage to individuals, if that's not the number one choice of the crime syndicate, it's not your number one choice. Your number one choice is the crime syndicate, not the fact that heroin and meth and crack are destroying people's lives?
No, not correct. The organizations now they're polydrug. So for instance, the Colombian cartels, which are a priority.
Right, they have all those drugs, right?
Are the primary source for methamphetamine, cocaine, and a good amount of the heroin on the streets.
Right.
They're a priority.
So that's your number one priority, is going after that cartel.
Our number one priority is going after those that most impact the United States.
And do most
right
of those
now,
cartels emphasize, what are the drugs they emphasize in their arsenal?
The Mexican cartels, polydrug. It's cocaine, meth, heroin, marijuana.
Right. Marijuana is fourth. Would you agree that marijuana causes less harm to individuals than meth, crack, cocaine, and heroin?
As a former police officer, as a 32-year DEA agent, I can tell you that I think marijuana is an insidious drug.
That's not the question I asked you, ma'am. Does it cause less damage to the American society and to individuals than meth, crack, cocaine, and heroin? Does it make people have to kill to get their fix?
I can tell you that more teens enter treatment.
Can you answer my question?
Addiction.
Answer my question, please.
I'm trying to. It causes harm because it's young people that are using it. If you're talking about the
it's
violence,
not just young people, but you're trying to answer the question like I'm Jeff Sessions. I'm not Senator Sessions. I'm asking you a question. Does meth, does crack, heroin cause more damage to society and does meth and heroin cause more deaths than marijuana?
all drug trafficking causes deaths. I don't have a breakdown of how many
Aspirin,
deaths.
does aspirin cause deaths?
I'm talking about the illegal drugs. I don't have a breakdown for you of how many deaths are caused by cocaine and how many are
Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a person who had cancer and used marijuana to help them eat or to alleviate their condition of someone suffering from terminal cancer?
No, I have not.
And if you had, and I have, and seen that it helps them with their appetite and makes them smile, would you agree that it has some benefit to society for somebody who's dying, maybe a Navy SEAL who spent his life working and defending this country and is emaciated to 120 pounds, and that marijuana is the only thing that makes him eat and makes him smile, according to his 80-year-old mother? Is there not an efficacious situation there?
I think that's between him and his doctor.
Well, if it's between him and his doctor, why does the DEA take a position that medical marijuana is wrong, which you've taken? You've taken the position it's not between him and his doctor. You have a publication, which on page 6 of your publication in 2011 has the most insane and banal paragraph. The legalization movement is not simply a harmless academic exercise. The moral danger of thinking that marijuana is...
time has expired.
Leonhardt, notably, I think this was a few months ago, testifying before Congress, she would not acknowledge that pot is less dangerous than heroin, right? And I think for a lot of Americans who saw that, and that's been viewed like 500,000 times on YouTube, a lot of Americans think that's ridiculous, and it is kind of preposterous. But here we are where, the president is moving more towards the left on this. It's looking like they're going to ease back and let states not interfere with so much with what states are doing. But here you are where your DEA chief obviously is totally still gung-ho against marijuana.
And it's okay to have ideological division within an administration, within different arms of the administration. So I'm not convinced that her job is unsafe. I think the question becomes sort of how do you chart out a plan to promote state legalization at the same time that people inside are resisting it. I mean, he said he wants a team of rivals. He's been saying that since 2008. This could be an instance where he has to make a compelling case to his own people that this makes sense.
Well, yeah, it can make sense in some ways. Obviously, when you think about it, it would be a little peculiar if we had a DEA chief who was very, very progressive when it came to marijuana laws and was totally on board with what's going on in Colorado and Washington. But at the same time, I don't know that you want to project this much dissonance within your camp when it comes to an issue where broadly Americans are headed in the same direction.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the full melt.
Give me a break.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Ladies and gentlemen, it drives me absolutely insane. Insane, I tell you. To sit by and listen to Leinhardt. Leinhardt? Yeah. Michelle Leinhardt. She's the chick in front of the DEA. I mean, she heads up the Drug Enforcement Administration, put in place by Bush, renominated by our fine President Obama. Thanks, Obama. I had to say it. I had to say that. Drives me insane that she would sit there before Congress, Chuck Grassley and all. Your time has expired, sir. Of course it's expired. She ran it the hell out. She ran that clock down by not answering your question, Senator. It's absolutely ridiculous. Well, welcome to the Full Melt Show. I'm Steve Green. Today's topic, it seems rather obvious. The feds don't screw around here. The federal government is still locking people up for medical marijuana across this great land of ours, despite popular opinion, despite all of the stuff that's going on in state legislatures, despite the fact that we've passed legal marijuana in both retail and medical fashions in multiple states across this great land of ours, that this would be ignored by the federal government, and that our tax dollars, your and my hard-earned dollars, that the government sucks away, is being absolutely wasted in federal prisons and prosecutorial offices and courts across this country. It's insanity at its finest, and it's highlighted right there. I mean, people have seen this on YouTube for quite some time now. It's absolutely maddening to watch her sit there. Mr. Grassley wasn't the only one that was questioning Ms. Leinhardt. I mean, this is a subject that was put to her by many different questioners in this congressional hearing. Refuses to admit that marijuana has any medical efficacy, has backed positions to the contrary, and despite her testimony before Congress saying, that's between her and her doctor. No, it's not, Ms. Leinhardt, because the fact of the matter remains that your control of the DEA is really overshadowing what the doctor can or cannot do with regards to prescribing marijuana. You can't prescribe marijuana. This is why they have recommendations in states with medical marijuana laws, because they don't want to place the doctor in danger for prescribing something that is federally illegal. It's a Schedule I drug, has no medical value. And it's the opinion of people in heads of departments like Michelle's position in front of the DEA that hold this position down on a federal level. And as hard as it's been in the U.S. legislature, in Congress, to get them to admit legislatively, at least as legislators, as individuals, as people representing states where they've done this inside their own state, that this has both medical efficacy and does not deserve a Schedule I status in the federal government. It shouldn't be. In fact, right now in California, there is a federal judge for the first time ever considering whether or not, and we're expecting later this month for her to rule on this issue, whether or not it is unconstitutional for the DEA and the federal government to hold cannabis as a Schedule I narcotic where there is no medical efficacy, there's no medical purpose, nothing legitimate medical about it. This is simply a dangerous drug up there with cocaine and heroin and methamphetamine. In fact, it's scheduled higher than some of those because cocaine and heroin and methamphetamine all have legitimate medical uses. Seriously. This is why people are still to this day going to jail. It's not jail. Jail is something you do less than a year in a county or in a city. This is federal prison, people. This is locking you up and throwing away the key. You're at the behest of the corrections officers now. And this is not a pretty place. This is a place where people get murdered, get killed, get stabbed, get raped on a routine basis. These are nonviolent, in many cases, drug offenders. People just like yourself, whether you use cannabis or not, whether you believe in that subject or not, just like yourself, people who've chosen under the guise in many places of state law to use this for medical purposes or in some cases recreational purposes. Federal government still says no, that's not going to happen. Listen, coming up next, we have a person from a federal prison calling in. He is a life sentencer guy for marijuana. He'll be on the phone next. It's Jose Supulvida coming up live on this program. It's the Full Melt Show. Don't go away.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
They're parasites. They've got no contribution to this society. They're preying on our community and our kids. And it's going to end badly.
We've got exactly $100,000 in cash in the back of this car. I bet there's guys right there in that prison for doing just what we're about to do.
I want the Breckenridge Cannabis Club to be a household name.
This is us pioneering a new industry.
He's going after every resort town in Colorado. His plan is brilliant.
This is a big boy operation now.
We are not the Amsterdam of the Rockies, we're Breckenridge.
Absolutely unbelievable to us that this has happened so quickly.
That's when the town erupted.
All hell can break loose.
I think we have an image to protect.
The powerful elite has definitely put the pressure on.
Everyone is playing everyone.
They're going to have a target painted on their back.
That is a real threat.
There's $2 billion to be had next year. I plan to take more than my fair share.
High Profits. Season premieres Sunday night at 10 Eastern on CNN.
Does your dog or cat suffer with joint disorders, arthritis, anxiety, cancer, chronic pain, or other ailments? Hemp or cannabis-based medicinal products are now legal. Why should your pets go without the same options that we have available? Try Sativus, a daily hemp oil with CBD. Sativus is quality inspected and made in the USA. Easy-to-use drops are applied directly to your pet's food. For your pet's wellness, try Sativus drops. Ask for Suttibus at your local pet store or learn more at petpain.com.
You know, it's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at denalihealthcaremi.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464.
With this warmer weather, I get more active. Headaches and pains keep me from doing things I enjoy, like golfing and working outside my yard. Toledo Hemp Center's new location, 1415 Sylvania Avenue, has shown me there is an alternative to pharmaceutical drugs. I use CBD, cannabidiol, infused hemp lotions, oral sprays, and topical oils. Thank you, Toledo Hemp Center, for helping me restore and maintain my health with no side effects and no high. Find out more at ToledoHempCenter.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
So listen, I've been waiting to do this interview for quite some time. With me on the phone is Jose Supulvida. Jose, can you hear me? Can you hear me at all, Jose? Yes, I can. Okay, I'm going to take you off the speakerphone. Okay, talk now. Say something now.
Yeah, well, I'm here at the U.S. Penitentiary Hazleton in West Virginia.
Okay.
And I've been incarcerated for almost 20 years now. Never have been in trouble in my life. I'm a family man. I have 4 beautiful kids and 10 grandkids. I'm 60 years old now. I came in when I was 40 years old.
Now, what did they charge you with, Jose?
They charged me for importation and distribution of marijuana. And like I was saying before,
well, you were talking to me off the air, but go ahead and tell people.
Yeah, and the way the system works here, people testified and lie about different things to get home. I mean, people with life sentences testified against me and went home, and I was the underdog, just a worker really for them, and the bosses and everybody went home, and I stayed in prison after everybody cleaned their sleds, testifying against me, and I'm here with a life sentence for marijuana.
So it's a mandatory life minimum sentence for a nonviolent marijuana crime. This is what you're telling me.
Yeah, not only nonviolent. I mean, there was never any violence within the whole group. Totally. I mean, everybody was, some of them were college graduates, some of them were professional people. At the time, I probably was the less educated person in the group.
What year did this happen in?
And this conspiracy supposedly started in the 70s, late 70s, 78, 79. And it continued, according to the information from the U.S. government, to 1987. That's when the indictments were open because they were sealed, and people started getting arrested. When I saw that they were giving people life, I took off, and I said, wait a moment, I'm not going to go there and face this if I'm going to get life. I mean, I'll face it, 5 years or whatever. It's marijuana. I said, I didn't kill nobody.
Jose, we've got a very limited time on your prison phone. We're only going to have a maximum of probably about 10 minutes since we started this interview. What I want to make sure we do is cover the information that got you there. So what year did they charge you?
The year?
Yeah, what year did you get arrested and charged?
Oh, I got arrested after being 9 years a fugitive. I got arrested in 97, and I was forced to go to trial without a lawyer because they said that I had hit methods because all the stuff that they heard. And to this day, almost 20 years later, I can't even pay a lawyer because I don't have the money they thought I had. Never had it, you know? And here I am stuck with a life sentence for something that's being legalized throughout the years that I've been in prison, starting in Canada all the way down to, Mexico and Central America. No one cares about marijuana. Especially going to prison for 5, 10 years even for marijuana, that's unheard of.
So you never even thought in your wildest imagination that you could go to prison for life, throw away the key on you like you're just a useless piece of trash, that they would ever be able to do this to you over marijuana distribution, sales, use, possession, etc.?
Listen, if I knew that I was going to get 10, 20 years for a plant of God, marijuana, which I've seen throughout all my youth and from the 60s, everybody smoking it. No one stole for it. No one committed crimes to smoke marijuana. But even the people that drank committed crimes to drink. And I thought of it as being such a harmless drug or substance that I decided that, yeah, okay, fine. When the time came, I decided why not sell it, and make a living out of it. But I didn't have an idea that anyone could get, 20 years, 10 years, life, forget about it. That was like unbelievable when it happened to me. To the point that I got arrested and came into prison. They started telling me that I could get life. I was saying, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And it was true. If you don't cooperate with them, like I didn't cooperate with them, they gave me life, running concurrent, and 2.5 years for, since I didn't know how to defend myself in trial, I made a lot of mistakes, and there was a lot of contempt of court because I didn't know what to do and how to defend myself because I didn't have a lawyer.
They actually put you through the prison, through the criminal justice ringer, without having any attorney, no public defender to represent you.
No, that is incredible. I'm still in prison. My brother just became a New York Assemblyman, and he's going to try to help me somehow. He can't really do much for me. He's just. When you fall into this web of the federal system, I realized about the years that it's almost impossible to get out unless, they want to put you out there or the laws change, and I'm just here waiting. I don't know if I'm going to make it out alive or not.
Listen, it's a dangerous, dangerous place where you're at. I happen to know for a fact that you guys just came down off of a couple of back-to-back lockdowns. People get stabbed and raped and killed there, don't they?
Yeah, well, I've almost been killed twice. In fact, I got hurt so bad that I lost hearing on my left ear, and
this call is from a federal prison.
It was a setup by the officers, and I went to trial. In fact, 3 trials. I lost 2 and I won 1, and I proved that they set me up, the officers, to have me beat up and almost kill me. But I've seen people get killed in this place alone. I've been here just right out of a year, and 2 people have gotten killed. People get stabbed all the time. There's blood all over the place. Yesterday was one of the days they were mopping up blood. And they have a person like me for a marijuana conspiracy with a life sentence having to live and go through this. I've always been killed twice. I'm not a gang member. I don't have a tattoo. I'm just a family man that went into the wrong business, I guess, back then, and now it's a legal business in this country. Denver and many other states. And here I am risking my life after 20 years. How much punishment do they want from me?
I don't understand it, sir. I don't understand it, and this is one of the reasons that I do this radio program, is for people like you. There is no reason. See, I'm breaking up because I'm so angry about this. There's no reason, sir, that you should be behind bars for 1 iota of a minute over cannabis use, production, distribution, conspiracy, any of that stuff. We fight really hard against this because you don't deserve to be there, sir. You didn't do anything violent. You didn't hurt anyone. And people actually conspired against you and, put you in a place where you're in grave danger on a routine basis. I just don't understand it at all.
Well, let me tell you something. To understand this life here, the danger here, you have to live it. It's very difficult to explain it over the phone. It's your life. Sometimes you go to your room and you cry your eyes out because you say, "My God, am I going to see my grandchildren next summer? Am I going to see my kids, my daughter, which they love me so much?" I mean, we talk on the phone. We still cry about this whole situation almost 20 years later.
Sir, you've got me crying over it right now. You've got me crying over it right now. I mean, I'm in tears listening to your story, sir.
Yeah, and it's difficult. My whole family and friends, they all have shared a lot of tears, shedded a lot of tears throughout the years because they're saying, "How can this be? How can they do this to you?" And the thing is that they wrapped me up so well that they took everything from my mother. They said they want to take everything from my father. No one could give me a penny. I mean, my family, I don't come from a rich family. Now in the last 20 years that I've been in prison, some of my family members have come up in life, and some of them are lawyers, some of them are politicians. That's just recently. But I'm still here. And I'm growing here. I mean, I wrote 5 books, then I published it. I'm an inventor. I do the right thing. I help people here. And that's the way I was in the street. There's no difference. I wasn't hurting anybody. I never robbed anybody. I don't have a parking ticket on my record, Stephen.
I just want to be clear, Jose, you've never had any guns. You never belonged to any gangs.
Never, and will not. And everybody here belongs to gangs and associations, and I have to live around these people that, want to do different because you're not part of their clique or whatever. It's just not me, I'm just a guy that sold pot, and I was, dragged into this incredible web by the federal government, and here I am. And they say I got to live here till I die.
I'm just I'm dumbfounded that a society like the United States citizens would allow a condition like this to exist, especially where their hard-earned tax dollars are paying for it. We're about to end up hanging up, aren't we? We only got a couple minutes left, don't we?
Not only that, no, it's going off. Not only that, if I was in the street, the United States government would have been making millions out of my abilities and businesses, and I would be employing people out there doing all the good things that an American person should do, because I consider myself an American person 6 generations here in this country.
How long have you been in this country, Jose? Oh, that's it. That's all we get. That's all we get from the federal prison system, a maximum of 15 minutes. He called right as the commercial break started, and that's all we get. And that's all he gets. Are we going to allow this to continue? Because it's going on right now. Today, a friend of mine, and shortly, hopefully here in a few minutes after the next commercial break, John Targowski, California attorney, Michigan attorney, he just came back from California to do some representation on a case where there were 38 defendants in Grand Rapids, Michigan, wrapped up over a marijuana conspiracy case. I'll let John explain the minimums and the maximums and what ended up happening when he comes on the program in just moments. He's laid over in Chicago right now. He's just getting off the plane. He's rushing down the ramp to get to the phone to call. And the moment he does, we'll put him on the air here. In the meanwhile, we're getting ready to go to break. I do have a caller. Let's see who it is. Hello, you're on the Full Melt Show. Hello.
Hi, it's Rick Thompson calling in. How are you, Steve?
I am good, Rick. Thank you for calling. Did you happen to get a chance to hear Jose and his amazing story, Mr. Supulvida's story?
I sure did. That story pulls at my heartstrings. Not only did he have just a rough ride there, but we have a fellow warrior, Ryan Basore, who's in prison, and also in West Virginia in Morgantown Federal Correctional Institute. So this is a story that isn't just limited to California or to Texas or to some, oceanic state. We have this problem right here in Michigan.
Look, this person that I'm talking about, and I'm not revealing their name because even though it's probably public record, I'd rather let Mr. Targowski reveal that information as is appropriate. But this person got 60 months in prison. 60 months. Wait a minute. Is that right? It might be 90. I'm not exactly sure. Whatever it is, it adds up to 7.5 years that he just got. I mean, and it's literally half of what the federal minimum sentencing guideline was. It's literally half of it. I'm still, my jaw is on the ground that not only are there people like Mr. Supulvida in prison being exposed to violence from real criminals, but we're still putting people through that mill, despite the fact that Michigan has modified its laws about marijuana, because none of the state laws matter when you start talking about dragging this issue into federal court. And that's usually what happens when they don't have a state case. They can't bring that state case and confidently feel like they're going to get a conviction. They'll just hand it over to the feds straight up and say, here you guys go. We've got it all wrapped up in a bow for you. You don't have to worry about Michigan law. Just use the federal thing.
And it just shows the value of, and it's unfortunate, but it shows the value of having a good attorney when he can get you half of the sentencing guideline. But it also shows you the flip side of the coin. If you can't afford that good attorney, like your previous caller said, then you're in a can't-win situation where you deserve justice just like someone else, but financial resources prevent it from happening.
It's absolutely maddening, Rick. So listen, I'm hoping that you can hang on with me. I know I talked to you ahead of time because I wanted to talk about Mr. Basore and another case here in Michigan. And, there's also a bunch of other cases that we could probably reference. But I did want to get Mr. Targowski on to get his expert opinion about what this means and what it doesn't mean, and how we can do things to affect change and maybe underscore the reason why you and I and a bunch of other people really speak out against this. Because, at the moment we're talking about these federal prisoners over marijuana, yesterday I just had these guys on from a dispensary in Breckenridge, Colorado, who were riding past a prison, pointing it out and saying, look, we got a duffel bag full of cash, and there's a bunch of people in that prison over there right now that are there for doing exactly the same thing as we did. Rick, hang on for a minute. Shortly after the break, Mr. John Targowski is going to come on and talk about this sentence that he got today for a client. 7.5 years he's facing as he walks off into the arms and custody of the Federal Department of Corrections. Rick, hang on. If you want to call and be a part of the program, 844-420-TALK. You're listening to The Full Melt Show.
It started with Weed 1.
Some have called it a watershed moment.
Then came Weed 2.
It's absurd that we would have to do this to get medicine.
Now Dr. Sanjay Gupta is at it again, and he's reaching higher than ever with Weed 3.
I never thought I would be smoking weed in the hospital.
The movement behind it.
We demand this plant go through the process of the FDA.
The radical research.
I have to say I'm kind of stunned.
Weed 3, the marijuana revolution. All new Sunday, April 19th at 9.
Hey, it's Steve Green. Make sure you make it out for the Big 420 celebration at the Sweet Leaf Patient Care Center in Flint. It's going to be a huge celebration from 11 to 7 Sunday and Monday. Holistic medicines and teas are just a part of it. There's massage, food, honey and lavender healing products, local musicians and artists, workshops and seminars, vendors and people galore. It's the Sweet Leaf Patient Care Collective, 400 South Door Highway, Flint, Sunday and Monday. That's this Sunday and Monday from 11 to 7 for 420. Don't miss it.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
With this warmer weather, I get more active. Headaches and pains keep me from doing things I enjoy, like golfing and working outside my yard. Toledo Hemp Center's new location, 1415 Sylvania Avenue, has shown me there is an alternative to pharmaceutical drugs. I use CBD, cannabidiol, infused hemp lotions, oral sprays, and topical oils. Thank you, Toledo Hemp Center, for helping me restore and maintain my health with no side effects and no high. Find out more at ToledoHempCenter.com.
Does your dog or cat suffer with joint disorders, arthritis, anxiety, cancer, chronic pain, or other ailments? Hemp or cannabis-based medicinal products are now legal. Why should your pets go without the same options that we have available? Try Sativus, a daily hemp oil with CBD. Sativus is quality inspected and made in the USA. Easy-to-use drops are applied directly to your pet's food. For your pet's wellness, try Sativus drops. Ask for Sativus at your local pet store or learn more at petpain.com.
Get inside!
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. So if you get a chance, right there at the top of the page on thefullmelt.com, please like us and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. If you get a chance, click through the Spreaker site. As soon as I get 150 likes on the Spreaker site, I'm going to submit this program to iHeartRadio. With us on the program today is Mr. John Targowski. John, are you there?
I am here.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule today to address this situation. It seemed to be rather critical to me, noting that you had a client today that got a rather stiff sentence, even though it was only part of what the federal guidelines were for the minimum for a sentence conviction in his situation.
That's correct. I represent somebody out here in the Western District of Michigan, and this case has been going on for about a year and a half. He's the leader of like a 38 defendant group of people that, were not super in compliance with the Medical Marijuana Act, but they weren't, in the grand scheme of things, they should not have been in federal court, and I don't think they would have been in federal court if this was in the Eastern District of Michigan. So, yeah, it was a stiff sentence. I'll say this, though. The last time I had a career offender with the same guidelines as my client in this case, which were 188 to 135 months, he also got half the minimum, but he was a gun-toting heroin dealer. So, in essence, we are sort of treating that person. I mean, my client definitely broke federal law, arguably broke the Medical Marijuana Act, but one thing he had going for him was he was nonviolent. And he really believed, he limited the marijuana to card holders, and he really believed it was medicine. And, he just treated himself as a businessman when the police and law enforcement don't consider him a businessman. And he just got ahead of the law. And now he's got about 90 months to think about that.
That's about 7.5 years? Or 7?
Yeah, he's going to have to do 85% of that, and he's got, I think, 7 months in custody. He went into custody at his plea hearing in November, so 5 months, something like that. So, yeah, he's going to do. I told his wife today that you'll see him probably sometime in the summer of 2020.
That's an appalling thing to have to look at as a family member. This is a guy with no guns, no gangs.
No guns, no gangs, no violent priors. He had 2 felony marijuana convictions in state court, and that put him in career offender status. And so those, we didn't dispute those convictions, but it's sort of like, Michigan State Court doesn't have a 3 strikes and you're out rule, but in federal court there's a career offender statute, and the guidelines, assuming you meet them, are pretty stiff. And 188 to 235 months is the guidelines if you plead guilty. If you don't plead guilty and you're a career offender, they're probably, I don't know off the top of my head, but they're 3 or 4 years more than that. So,
you didn't have the benefit of hearing our previous guest on the phone. He was it's Mr. Jose Supulvida. Similar situation. This guy's 60 years old. Investigation started in the 70s. It went through the mid-80s. In 87, an indictment was unsealed, and he ended up being charged with marijuana conspiracy. And he was a fugitive for 9 years. He didn't want to go to prison for marijuana. Ran from the law for 9 years, and then when they caught up with him, they gave this man a life sentence. They threw away the key on him. No gangs, no guns. just simple marijuana growth, and I don't know if he was growing it or if he was just distributing it, but this seems rather out of line with our civilian norms. It seems out of line with what people would think would be acceptable for a prison sentence over marijuana.
Yes, that's tragic. My heart goes out to him, having just had to experience even Sean's 90 months. One thing that I tried to get the judge to, because I wanted the judge to sentence Sean at 60 months, which is the mandatory minimum. And I wrote called a variance motion, which is asking the court to vary down from those really stiff guidelines. And in part, I talked about that we don't need these long sentences to promote respect for federal law, particularly when federal law is evolving and changing. Because what's crazy is that 90 months from now, in the summer of 2020, Sean gets out, even in Michigan, nobody's spending that kind of time for marijuana cases anymore. So that's the part that really kind of irks me is that we're putting these people away at the taxpayer expense, at my expense, for periods of time that at the end of that, what they even did to put them there is no longer illegal. That's really surreal if you want to think about that.
At the front of this program, I played a piece, and I'm sure you've seen it before. The DEA head, Miss Leonhardt, talking to Congress in a congressional hearing where Congress members are simply trying to get Mrs. Leonhardt or Ms. Leonhardt to admit
that marijuana is medicine and she couldn't do it.
Admit that it's less dangerous than methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, or crack.
Yeah, she was, very well prepared for that kind of response. And a disappointment is that I believe that she was a George W. Bush appointee that Obama kept.
Yes. And
I'm really disappointed. It's one of those things where, I really wish he would have changed that. I think we have, with our federal attorney general, Eric Holder, I think for the large part, I think he tried to do, some good work. He came out in 2010 against the failed Prop 19 effort in Colorado. But he's sort of the architect of that hands-off approach in Colorado and Washington. But it would have been nice to see somebody else there.
Go ahead.
One thing that I hope happens in the remaining years of the Obama administration is I think that he is putting together a fairly large package for commutation of people that, for instance, like your first caller, that have done over 10 years of their sentences already for drug offenses. I'm hoping in a year or two there's going to be, the Bureau of Prison population is about 350,000 people, and I think there's a significant amount of people that can benefit from that, from commuting their sentence. Say, they're like in their 12th year of a 20-year sentence for drug conspiracy, to sort of let them loose with that.
In Mr. Supulvida's case, he's seen a couple of murders just in the place that he's been Hazelton FCI, which is in West Virginia, I believe. It's a Federal Corrections Institute in West Virginia. They transfer these prisoners around. It's I think a medium security prison. But he's seen two people murdered, another one stabbed just recently. He's only been at this particular facility for a year. So not only are we incarcerating these people, but we're exposing these nonviolent people to some very violent people. Could you speak to that a minute?
Well, the integrity of the Bureau of Prisons actually, they're not really a correctional rehabilitative institution. They're for punishment, and it's they're not coming out better than they are coming in. I think that when you're doing a life sentence, the goal of that is just to keep you away from society, and whether they're trying to rehabilitate you or not is really one thing. But by and large, the vast majority of people that are going to the Bureau of Prisons are going to be exiting the Bureau of Prisons at some point.
In this instance, he's been in prison for 20 years already. Started in 97. That's when he actually got caught and they prosecuted him. It was in 97.
And part of the component of that might be what if he had any prior offenses, if he was a career offender.
He said he doesn't even have a parking ticket on his record.
Well, then he must have been. There must have been. I mean, I don't know if maybe it's just a complete tragedy, but normally you're going to need a lot of marijuana to get to that point.
It seems like there were a lot of people that testified against him in an effort to save their own skins.
So basically he didn't plead guilty and get the sentence. He went to trial and lost and got the sentence.
Not only that, he says he went to trial without an attorney. They forced him to represent himself. He made a lot of mistakes. He didn't know what to do. There was a lot of contempt of court because he didn't know the process.
That's not. In 12 years of practice, I've never seen a judge force them to represent themselves. Usually, the opposite is true because they're obviously nobody. If you don't have legal training, you don't know what hearsay is. You don't know what the rules of evidence are. That has not been my experience, but I have not been in front of that many judges.
Right. It's not. It doesn't favor the judge or the outcome of the trial to allow a defendant to represent himself.
Only in absolutely, unique circumstances. I probably would represent myself if I got indicted, but I'd probably be a fool for a client.
Yeah, that's the saying, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's. Let me just say this you have a Michigan audience. What happened to my client today wouldn't have happened in a lot of places. It wouldn't happen in the Detroit area, but it did happen. It did happen here, and it involved altogether between 400 and 600 plants was the relevant conduct that was largely grown in 12, 48, 72 plant increments over about 18 months. And complying with your home state law is important. So, for instance, my client today, he was a drug offender. He could not be a caregiver. He could be a patient only. He got other people involved as straw caregivers. So, like prior to this case, when I practiced more regularly in Michigan, I would have these meetings where somebody would come in who had a drug offense and he had a girlfriend that didn't, and they wanted to talk to lawyers about whether they could sort of, combine them all together. Don't do stuff like that. You're creating codependence for yourself. And you just, there's a marketplace of ideas among us medical marijuana lawyers as to, what's going to get you in trouble and what's not, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. A lot of times I feel like the people that I would serve, they would sort of solicit several opinions and take the most favorable opinion despite how suicidal that really seems to be.
Listen, John, I don't want to put you off, but we're coming up on a break. Stand by with us. Can you hang through the break?
Yeah.
We'll be right back on the Full Melt Show.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green. Make sure you make it out for the Big 420 celebration at the Sweet Leaf Patient Care Center in Flint. It's going to be a huge celebration from 11 to 7 Sunday and Monday. Holistic medicines and teas are just a part of it. There's massage, food, honey and lavender healing products, local musicians and artists, workshops and seminars, vendors and people galore. It's the Sweet Leaf Patient Care Collective, 400 South Door Highway, Flint, Sunday and Monday. That's this Sunday and Monday from 11 to 7 for 420. Don't miss it.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
It started with Weed 1.
Some have called it a watershed moment.
Then came Weed 2.
It's absurd that we would have to do this to get medicine.
Now Dr. Sanjay Gupta is at it again, and he's reaching higher than ever with Weed 3.
I never thought I would be smoking weed in the hospital.
The movement behind it.
We demand this plant go through the process of the FDA.
The radical research.
I have to say I'm kind of stunned.
Weed 3, the marijuana revolution. All new Sunday, April 19th at 9.
They're parasites. They've got no contribution to this society. They're preying on our community and our kids. And it's going to end badly.
He's got exactly $100,000 in cash in the back of his car. I bet there's guys right there in that prison for doing just what we're about to do.
I want the Breckenridge Cannabis Club to be a household name.
This is us pioneering a new industry.
He's going after every resort town in Colorado. His plan is brilliant.
This is a big boy operation now.
We are not the Amsterdam of the Rockies. We're Breckenridge.
Absolutely unbelievable to us that this has happened so quickly.
That's when the town erupted.
All hell can break loose.
I think we have an image to protect.
The powerful elite has definitely put the pressure on.
Everyone is playing everyone.
They're going to have a target painted on their back.
That is a real threat.
There's $2 billion to be had next year. I plan to take more than my fair share.
High Profits. Season premieres Sunday night at 10 Eastern on CNN.
So this is Brian Rogers
and Caitlin McGuire
from CNN's High Profits.
And you're listening to The Full Melt Show.
Hey, welcome back to The Full Melt Show. I'm just amazed, absolutely amazed, that you can have people like Brian and Caitlin ride by a prison and see people there, knowing that they're there for doing the same thing that they're about to do. It's just an outstanding thing. Please, if you get a chance, tune into that program this Sunday, both programs. CNN's Sanjay Gupta with Weed 3, the third incarnation of his series on this. It didn't start as a series, it started as a statement. He's not stopped making that statement. It'll be very interesting to see what he's got to say this time around. And then immediately following that, the series premiere of High Profits. Our guest on the program at this point is John Targowski, hanging out at the Chicago airport. John, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Listen, I just don't even know what to say about this because it seems so in the face of, common sense, logic, what normal people would deem as reality. This is
the perspective that I got today from the judge was actually pretty interesting because, like I said, I was trying to sort of show how actually these harsh sentences promote disrespect for federal law, and that we shouldn't, if we want to encourage respect for federal law, there has to be a balance. This judge, Judge Yonker, who's a federal judge in Grand Rapids, his posture towards that is really like, well, that's up to our Congress in D.C., and, they told us these are the sentencing guidelines, these are the laws that they gave us, and I'm, here to use those laws as tools. And if they don't want this to happen, they're going to know about it. So what you're doing today with your show is you're educating people about what are, the inaction for Congress in, somehow modifying the federal drug war.
Well,
reality.
In the face of a coming presidential election cycle, you've got all these people announcing, including Hillary Clinton finally, and then this huge list of Republicans going out to start the presidential campaign.
I don't think Hillary Clinton's the biggest fan of marijuana. I think that she's probably, going to use this as an opportunity to get, young voters in a presidential election. But I think, her opinion about marijuana is probably on the more cautious end for a Democrat. But we'll see what happens.
It'll be an interesting thing to find out. John, I really appreciate your introspect and your position on this. I thank you for what you do because without people like you, there'd be more people like Jose representing themselves, trying to figure out their way through the legal system, not even realizing at some point along the line that you could get life in prison for marijuana. Or even in your client's case, several years, 6, 7, 8 years for marijuana.
It's crazy. It's crazy that we still live in this world, and I thank you for raising the awareness about it so that we don't have to one day.
Thanks again for coming on the program. I've got Rick Thompson on the line. I do want to get to him to talk about Ryan Basore.
Tell him I said hi.
You can tell him yourself. Hang on. Rick, are you there?
I sure am, Steve.
Can you hear John?
Hey, Rick.
Hi, sure. Hey, John, nice talking to you. It's a real advantage having somebody like John who has a national perspective and gets a variety of experience. Because, sometimes when you just be in one state, you don't always appreciate the big picture. So, great to have him.
Thank you. And my best to Ryan Basore. He's definitely, somebody that I think of whenever I think of the indignities and injustices that happened in Michigan. So thank you, and good night to both of you guys. Keep up the good work.
Looks like about
42
days left on Basore's sentence. 42 days, and he should be back in the state.
John Targowski, attorney, thank you so much for coming on the program. Safe travels back to California, brother.
No problem. Take care, guys.
All right. Rick, we're on a whiny line. It's one of those whistly, whiny lines, so we're going to bear with it. But I did want to talk about Ryan a little bit more. Ryan is from Lansing, Michigan. Can you give us a little quick history? We got about 5 minutes left on the show.
Sure. Lansing is part of what's called the Lansing, Basore is part of what's called the Lansing 7 or the Okemos 7, which was a very similar situation to some of the other stories you've heard tonight. People that believed they were acting under authority of state law, who eventually ended up being penalized at the federal level. At this point, Ryan's done about a year and a half of time. It's like that comes to an end, and he could be rotated back home.
Sorry about that. A little bit of noise in the background from a leftover John line.
Okay. But at this time, the details are not finalized, I don't believe, so we're still keeping our fingers crossed. Ryan is my partner with the Compassion Chronicles and was a principal in the MACC organization. He's just a great guy. Wonderful dude.
You've gone and visited Ryan before in prison. What are his spirits like, given the length of his sentence for the minimal crime that he committed?
Well, Ryan's in Morgantown Federal Correctional Institute, which is a minimum security prison. So, although it's shocking to see the degree of control that they have, it's nowhere near the kind of situation that your first caller suffers through. We're so grateful that Ryan was placed in Morgantown. The regular correctional institutes are just frightening as hell. I know no prison is good, but wow, what your caller described earlier today is just a worst case scenario for somebody who is in prison for a nonviolent offense.
It really puzzles me, and I just don't see how we can call ourselves a free nation when we're busy using our own tax dollars and our own resources to fight an unwinnable war.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think you're right, Steve. I really do. The questions are more values, and it's at this time when society makes the change, and that's what we're seeing now with the marijuana revolution in America.
I think the thing that we're doing is the right thing. I don't know how else we can change hearts and minds and get people to understand unless we wave them like a flag in people's face.
Yep, I agree. And, there's so many different reasons to want marijuana law reform, whether it's revenue generation, whether it's a right-sizing of the civic responsibility, freeing up jail space. All of those lead to one inevitable conclusion that marijuana should be legalized.
I feel like I'm talking to you on the moon. I don't know why. It seems like we could get a better connection to the space station than the one that I have with you right now. But Rick, you've been hanging on the phone all hour long, and I thank you for coming on the program and helping to highlight this. I always want to reach out to people, fellow colleagues, and let them give an opportunity to promote themselves. You're a contributor to many publications, including your own, the Compassion Chronicles, at thecompassionchronicles.com. What else you got to give us?
Well, of course, I write for Hybrid Life magazine, the Green publication. I usually do work for High Times, but most importantly, I'm a board member of the MCC LRIC. We're doing a town hall meeting on the 19th in Flint. You're running a wonderful commercial for it. I'd encourage everybody to get out there on that Sunday and participate in our town hall. Learn more about the effort to legalize in Michigan.
Thank you, Rick Thompson, for joining us on the program tonight.
What a professional show, Steve. Thanks for inviting me.
I really appreciate your participation. And keep up the awesome work.
I love the Full Melt Show. Full Melt rules.
We're trying hard. We're swinging that bat, Rick, for people like Jose and Ryan, and to prevent people like them from becoming them.
I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't catch that.
That's okay. We don't have to. The program's about to end, Rick. But thanks again for coming on.
Thank you very much.
All right. Wow. That's all I can say to this is, wow. We allow this to happen, yet we want to consider ourselves better than Russia. I'll just remind you of an underscoring fact here. The United States has 5% of the world's population. That's 5% of the world's population. We have 25% of the world's prisoners. You tell me what's wrong with that math. because there's something seriously wrong with that math. It's not me screwing it up. It's not a misinterpretation of numbers. This is what we do in this country, and it's all based on a big lie. It started back in the Nixon administration, started back before that. You're right, during the Prohibition era. We learned this lesson from alcohol prohibition, yet we still are grinding this unwinnable war away at this hour. Today, make it stop. Thanks for tuning in today on the Full Melt program. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.